We're live. Megtooth Monday live. See if we get any viewers coming in here. I know it's kind of early. Um, Next Monday might be a little crazy because my son's moving into a new house. So don't know. Megtooth Monday live might be a different time next week if I have to help him move into his house. But if we get any viewers in here tonight, which it's not looking good for that. But if we do get any viewers in here tonight, we'll show off some stuff that I got going on. Might as well show a little piece of it here. I know these kind of blew up the internet a little bit, and I wanted to kind of show them off here. That's the KR Sabres flagships that were etched by Snndoval, and he did the leather wrap on them too. And somewhere the switch just fell out on the floor, but I had switches made for these too. Don't want to lose them. Oh yeah, those things came out awesome, Max. Look at that. Somebody commented on one of the groups like that my logo was gaudy on there, and I was like, well, then I'm gaudy. Who cares? It's pretty awesome. I like it. I wanted these to be a keystone feature on my channel. I also have I'll show you. So here's the brass one, and man, the brass one's really heavy. Oh, it's buffering. I'm sorry, Michael. I don't know what's going on with my web connection. Hopefully it's not on my end. Hopefully it's on your end. But there is the brass one. And just so y'all can see it, here the dual brass switch that I got from Robert Sotomayor for these, and I also got the chassis. So there's a dual switch solution in brass, which will go in this one right there. That's what the switch solution looks like. And still buffering, Michael. Here's the chassis. So I'm pretty excited, to have those Sabres in and to get them going. Hope I didn't lose that other switch. Sweet. Hopefully it was on your end. So awesome. Yeah, Max, you can get those dual switches that fit in these God, I believe it's 12 millimeter holes. What's up, Rich? Yeah, you can get those switches for this from Robert Sotomayor. He makes these double switch solutions, and he does them in plastic and brass right now. I don't think he does any with an aluminum body, but that's his brass body dual 12 millimeter switch. So there's actually two micro tactile switches inside of here, and I don't know if you can see them in there, but they're really, really small. But you don't need huge beefy things for these little tactile signal switches. They're very small. Hey, had me on. Great to see all you guys. But yeah, there they are in all their glory. They came out really awesome. I'm pretty happy with them. Those things are both really awesome. This thing is so heavy, and this thing is heavy just uninstalled. I mean, it's totally empty, but man, it's heavy. I know when I install this thing, it's going to weigh a ton. So, and I don't know if I'm going to be selling these things. Risky, did you sit on my switch? Where does my switch go? Do you know where it went? I don't know where it went. Come here. You want to say hey to everybody? No, not that way. Come here. Come this way. Come here. Come here. Come say hey to everybody. Come here. Oh, there we go. There's my Risky. He's always bothering me when I'm trying to make a video. He's really wanting some Risky time right now. He's really bugging the mess out of me. But that's my Weimaraner. He's crazy. But some other stuff that's coming up. Hey, by the way, so I don't know if anybody caught Birch and oh damn it, now I'm going to forget his name. The other guy's live video the other week, and Birch and them said that I fabricated the the install video, and kind of true. There was one clip in the install video where I lost the clip where I was installing the speaker in Birch's chassis, and I just showed installing a speaker in a MHS V6 chassis. Because initially I was doing a MHS V6 tutorial and a Birch chassis tutorial, and then it was just the video was too long. I mean, it was 2 hours and 45 minutes long, so I got rid of the MHS V6 portion of that video along with some other stuff. The little switch thing that I broke off, the recharge port thing I broke off, and I left the NeoPixel adapter wiring and everything and assembly all in there because I thought that was pretty good. But anyway, it was funny because they were making fun of me, but that's okay because I made fun of Birch, when he calls them profies. And then the Peacekeeper's Armory, Gary, I heard him say profi today too. That must be some kind of California thing or something. You boys wire up your profies. I'm just kidding. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. I don't care what you call it. They're awesome. But yeah, I have the chassis and the switch solutions for both these sabers, and hope to be wiring both of these up soon. Right now, I've got a bunch of Graflexes that I'm building. I'm building, I think, 3 Graflexes and 2 DV6s. Yeah, I did, Max. You can get them from Robert Sotomayor. Robert, R-O-B-E-R-T, Soto, S-O-T-O-M-A-Y-O-R. Robert Sotomayor. He is on Facebook. He's on the open source groups. He's a part of Smugglers Outpost Savers. Like I said, there's like a whole conglomeration of those Smugglers Outpost guys out there on the West Coast. And I even think Pete Snndoval, the guy that did the etches on these sabers, I think he's kind of loosely conglomerated with Smugglers Outpost. And by the way, these were done by Pete's Powder Coating Emporium. Pete's Powder Coating Emporium. That's Pete Snndoval on Facebook. And, Pete's awesome. What can you say about him except for the fact that he is awesome? And Pete is awesome. I'm trying to find those stupid switches. Where'd they go, Risky? Oh, I found it. Here's the other. Here's the other switch. This is the one that's going in the aluminum hilt, but you can see it's a plastic body on this one, like 3D printed, but it's still got the same, brass tactile switches in it. You can see them in there, and this little piece, goes through just to hold the 2 halves together. Hey, Juan Carlos. And glad I got his name to you, Max. But Robert Sotomayor also did the chassis for these, so I haven't even had a chance. So I'm going to take this hilt off, and I guess we'll see how the chassis fits in because I never even got a chance to test fit these. I'm assuming the chassis goes in like that. It's like a tight fit, and then it's a tight fit. Tight fit on these battery clips. So I'm probably going to have to do some engineering on this. So the chassis actually doesn't fit on there because of these battery clips. So these battery clips that he has on here actually stick up a little bit higher on the corners. I don't know if you can see those corners, so I'm going to have to take a Dremel and round those down. These chassis, how do I wire those up? You run your wires in through that hole right there and up into the Profi. And, you'll have, your battery wires going through that hole in your speaker wire. There's a small hole here in the bottom. So your negative battery wire and your speaker wires will go down through that hole, and then they'll run in that channel there and underneath the battery is what it looks like to me. But I'm going to have to do some modifying of the battery contacts. Oh, the dual switches. Just like any tactile switch, Max. If you haven't watched my introduction to tactile switches video, I kind of explain how to wire switches, and it doesn't matter whether they're 4-post or 2-post switches, or if they're illuminated switches. I think I covered it all on there. Tonight's topic is whatever you guys want, but I definitely wanted to show off the two the KR sabers that I got etched by Peach Powder Emporium. These things are awesome. So yeah, if you watch that switch video, so basically each switch, a tactile switch, usually these small ones only have 2 legs on them, and one leg gets ground and the other is your switch wire. But you can actually share the common ground between the 2 switches. In other words, you can run a jumper wire from one ground leg to the other ground leg, and then just run one ground wire for both switches. And then that way, with a two tactile switch setup, you'll have 3 wires. You'll have a main switch wire, your auxiliary switch wire, and your ground switch wire. And there's multiple ways to, grab ground. You can run, if you're running a recharge port, you can grab ground off the recharge port. So ground is ground is ground is ground is ground. You don't have to grab ground on the board. You don't have to take the ground for the switches to the board. If you can pop ground on somewhere more convenient inside the chassis, then grab it. I like taking as few wires as possible to the soundboard. Hey, got my Royals cup. Maybe the Royals will do good this year since the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. I'm not a huge football fan, but the funny thing is I watched the Super Bowl last night. It was actually a really good game. And, I was happy to see the Chiefs get in there. One of my customers, Andy Paul, he's a huge Chiefs fan. So, I know he's happy that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. It was a good game. For somebody that's not a football fan, I actually got into the game, and I know that's heresy. I'm like one of the only red-blooded Americans that's not a American football fan. But at any rate, another thing that's coming up is this. So I'm going to go ahead and get the sales video posted for this. I was going to buy a bunch more fonts and put them on here, but I think I'm going to leave this as is stock and go ahead and put it out there. And this is that Ultra Sabers that I put the CFX into. And for those of y'all that haven't seen it, I'll go ahead and let's see here. Oh, come on, Tom. I'll get it.
Sound bank selection.
There we go.
Revolt. This is General Kenobi.
So I put the SMD LEDs on this CFX, and they.
Audio player.
Oh, come on now.
This is General Kenobi.
Audio player.
This is General Kenobi. Surely we can be civilized about this.
It's funny because, I don't know how to use Profi sometimes, but you can watch those SMD LEDs doing their thing in idle, and then when you ignite the saber,
our guests have arrived. Let the negotiations begin.
They do their up and down cycle like a Cylon back and forth, and then when you So this saber's gonna come pretty much just stock with the stock fonts, and I also did the
lovely, more smiling faces.
Backlit NeoPixel blade plug on there, because that's a Arkham razor blade plug.
You're wasting your time.
So I'll be getting that one for sale soon, as well as this one. I have some little bit more prettying up on this one I want to do. Does anybody know if there's a good font for Kanan Jarrus on this saber? I thought I was gonna download the Rebels theme song and put that as the background on something. And I don't know. Anybody know a good Kanan Jarrus font that's out there? I'm not sure, but I'm gonna do that. And of course the Corbanth crossguard. So I've shot most of the video for the Corbanth crossguard. I still got to do the instruction portion of it, and then I'll get the Corbanth crossguard up there for sale. So I'm going to have 3 lightsabers for sale. Blind Knight. Jesse has Blind Knight. I'll probably go check that out, Max. So I have this Ultra Sabers. with CFX in it, stock fonts. I'll have this one, and I'll put Jesse Kirkbride's The Blind Knight on this one. And there's some additional stuff I want to do. I might even do a blade plug in that one. And then I'll have my Corvant crossguard up for sale, which there it is right there. And you know, the paint job isn't that great. I did the paint work on this, and the damage and the wear and tear. This is more like a TFA, but it'll have the, you know, both quilliams in it. So this one will be for sale soon. The video is almost done. This is actually the main blade, so I finally built the main blade for it. So it's all almost over with the crying. So I need to get those 3 sabers moved on out, and then I begin the next Graflex project. I got 3 Graflexes that I'm installing and 2 DV6s, and I'm going to be doing all those pretty much at the same time. And 2 of the Graflexes are spoken for. 1 of the DV6s is spoken for, so I'll have 1 DV6 and 1 Graflex that'll go up for grabs from those builds. And then I pretty much need to wind down until I sell this house. We've got 8 MyComs left from our current run of 40. And if you guys missed the MyCom demo, on last week's live video, we did a MyCom demo of our Chewbacca and Kylo Ren templates. And we're closing in on the end of our last run of the MyCom units until probably May. I think we're going to be taking a break until May while I'm selling this house and, you know, moving into a new house. Got some big projects coming up. Painting the outside of the house is probably one of the biggest ones. And then I got some room painting to do, but then hopefully we'll get it on the market pretty quick. Hoping that we'll get it on the market in March or April. Obviously not going to happen in February. But at any rate, thanks Max for pointing to the Blind Knight, because I didn't know, you know, where to get the font for that one. But Blind Knight, I'll go to check Jesse Kirkbride's site out and purchase a Blind Knight for that saber and include that in the cost of it. So if anybody's looking for smooth swing NeoPixel sabers, I'll have them. Trying to sell them without the blades. You know, people can buy their blades from Vader's Vault or wherever else, because I'm kind of out of NeoPixels right now. Hey Skywalker, good to see you. You know, I have a bunch of 50/50 NeoPixels, but I got to the point where I don't like building blades with the 50/50s. And I think I have enough 35/35s for 1 blade, but those are already spoken for, so I'm out of NeoPixels. What brand of NeoPixels are you guys using, and what size NeoPixels, and where are y'all getting them from? So I source my 35/35s on eBay, and you know, I was trying to see if you guys had a better source. You know, I know the Adafruit skinny strips. You know, the first NeoPixel sabers I ever built, those cross guards that were Teensy Saber cross guard. Oh, Birch is in the house. BTF 2812Bs. Welcome. Sorry, it's called Blind Cowboy. Oh, Blind Cowboy. Roger that, Max. I'll go check out his site and get those. Amazon. Yeah. I haven't had much luck on Amazon with NeoPixels. I got a couple of bad batches of NeoPixels from Amazon, so it kind of scared me off. So the funny thing is the I can't wait till they're out. You know, I'm looking forward to those KR strips. I think the only thing I don't like about them is you're kind of ham-hocked to a certain blade length, which is the, you know, the length of those strips. I don't know how trimmable they're going to be, but aside from that, I mean, they're a perfect solution, because you no more putting the 2 strips together. You already have the strips. You just wire them up and throw them in the foam, or throw them in the shrink and throw them in cellophane wrap and throw them in the foam, which is what I usually do for diffusion. But hey, Jeff, since you're on here, are you involved in Smuggler's Outpost Sabers? Is that like a loose conglomeration of all you guys out there in California? You know, all you people out there that call them profis? Profi? I don't know if Birch can even hear me. I don't know if Birch is still in Mississippi or Alabama or what. Oh, okay, roger that. Yeah, I knew there was like a bunch of them that were all like working together. Um, and questions came up, about chassis and yeah, yeah, I knew about Albert Flores. I actually bought, yeah, Sotomayor. What about um, what about Pete Sandoval? Is he in Smuggler's Outpost too? Wow, that's a big group. I knew there was a bunch of them, but that's a lot bigger than I knew. That's pretty cool. So, Birch, did you? I don't know if you saw these, man. Blam! Look at those. How sweet is that? Isn't that crazy? Somebody, I think it was James Rocco. It might not have been. Somebody's like, I don't like that logo. It's too gaudy. And I'm like, I'm gaudy. What do you want me to do? There's the aluminum one. Look at that work. I know this camera sucks, and it's not going to do these any justice. I'm trying to put it up there so the camera can see all the details in there. Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy with it. It's expensive, which that kind of was. I guess that's kind of one of the topics we were kind of touching on it last week a little bit, maybe a little bit week before, and you know, for those out there, and there may be people that watch this video. I know most of you guys are installers or you're building your own savers. Um, but I wanted to talk about the cost of these things. I think y'all saw the video when I was installing this saber, of course, because I videotaped the whole thing except for the part that I fabricated. Birch. Let's see what Birch said. Oh yeah, that's why I sent him to Pete, because I knew he had. I knew he pretty much has the flagship thing down. He already has the templates for it. It's well beyond my skill level. Yeah. So yeah, they came out great. But that, hey, Birch, I had to let that one through. Your B equals D message, it was censoring it. The feed was censoring it. But at any rate, Birch and a bunch of others kind of brought up something. There's a bunch of guys that are like, how much do those sabers cost? And you tell them, and they're like, that's too much. Or you'll see them comment on the Facebook groups, that's not worth it. And good luck getting that much money and all that stuff. And it's kind of like, yeah, I like the logo. Hey, I'm not that word, Birchie. Is that? Oh, that is that. Oh, that shows you how out of date I am. I'm not up to date on all this chat stuff they do out on the West Coast, where they call them profies. At least they're up to date on their chats. But what I wanted to get to was when you see those guys commenting on, look, and I'll admit, I mean, some of the sabers, I see how much they're charging for them, and I'm like, good Lord, man, that was expensive. And, but then you see them sell, and you're like, yeah, like that Black Widow saber that everybody was talking about. I mean, that was kind of crazy. I know you're not from Canada, Birch. I also know you're from St. Louis, Missouri. Hey, Birch, did you ever hear me when I told you that my family's from Missouri too? But we're down south in the Boot Heel is where my family's from, near Cape Girardeau, Hayti, Braggadocia, Crothersville, that area. Yeah, that Black Mamba. I mean, what did that thing sell for? Like $10,000 or something? And I know Yoda's sabers, they always sell for a mint. If you can get one of Yoda's Graflexes. But what I was wanting to talk about was, in general. So if you bought this hilt empty from Ultra Sabers, number one, that's $200 all on its own, with shipping. And then the profi and the install and soldering all the electronics, which takes about 3 hours. And when somebody wants to pay like $200 or $300 for something like this as a finished product, that's not realistic. That's not realistic at all. Um, you know, when you buy in these custom lightsabers, especially made by these custom installers, you're paying you're paying for their skill sets that made them. And if you think it's too much money, then by all means, jump on board and learn how to do this stuff yourself. Go buy you a soldering iron and make it happen. Hey, Birch, do you see we got the same soldering station? That depends on which one, Max, because I have to add up the cost of the hilt and then all the parts. So yeah, I mean, on this one, on this Ultra Sabers, Keen and Jarrus, yeah, I mean, adding it all up, yeah, I think that one's going to be at least 600, if not some more. But what I wanted to talk about was, you know, when I sent these hilts off to Pete Snndoval, they were brand new in the box, fresh from KR, no etching on them at all, brand new, shiny, smooth, and I sent them to Pete because Pete's reputation on these KR flagships and what he was able to do with them, and he didn't disappoint. Now this wasn't free. Hey, Needham, good to see you too. But these artwork is not free. Skill is not free. Hey, we'll see you, Rich. Nerd up. Hashtag nerd up for Birchie. But when you get these price tags, and I try to make sure that my price tags are reasonable. You can see my soldering station there. It's a Zenny 898D, and it's got a hot air rework station on it too. So it's got the iron and the hot air rework station. But it's basically like a Heiko knockoff soldering iron on there, or it is a Heiko soldering iron on there. Yep. Yeah, I have the same one, Birch. We got the same soldering station. It works awesome. And I run mine on 360 Celsius, and some people are going to freak out about that. But that's the temperature I run it on. But again, I'm using needle tips. So at 360 Celsius, once you touch something, it immediately goes cold. Yeah, I know. Pete is so awesome. But what I was going to get at there when I was talking about Pete was I never even asked him, for an estimate on the job. I knew it was going to cost some money. And you got to figure, he had 3 or 4 hours in on each saber. And what he charged me for was, not that much money considering the amount of time and expertise he had going into those. And if you tried to do something like this yourself, number one, you're going to have to buy the computer programs, the printers to do your etch shields, and you're going to have to develop your skill sets at all the art to do these etches like that. And then you're going to have to develop the skill set to, to do the etching in the acid for the right amount of time, so it's not too deep, not too shallow. And if you mess up, when you're etching, you could ruin your parts. So when you think about all that stuff, and then I ship them off to Pete to get etched, and it cost quite a bit of money. So this hilt, when I bought it new from KR Sabers, I think he had them on sale for like $100 each. Brass or aluminum, it didn't matter. Thank you, had me on. And now I've invested another, I think $250 or something like that. On the hilts, $225 on each hilt, something like that. So now the total cost of the hilt, totally empty, nothing inside of it, totally empty. The total cost of this hilt with the leather wrap and the etching now is about $325. Now, once I install it, and I have to buy a chassis for it, and I bought the dual switch solution, battery, speakers, then the Saber soundboard, and then I take my 2.5 hours. Actually, these flagships are pretty simple. So let's say 2 hours max on install time to build them. And then maybe another hour and a half building a blade, and another half an hour or so building a custom blade plug for it. And then maybe 2 or 3 hours, building the config and the SD card for it. And, then buying sound fonts for it, that are specific to that saber from the right font makers, and then getting them tuned in right. That's quite a bit of work. Hey, VFR pilot, you're VFR direct. Guess you're not IFR yet. He's VFR pilot. My diving buddy that I go scuba diving with, he's an airline pilot. He flies for Continental. But if you're gonna fly an airliner coast to coast, do you want somebody that is just learning, or do you want somebody that has it down? And if you want somebody that has it down, you're definitely gonna pay a price for that trip. And that's how I kind of look at lightsabers. And I think a lot of these guys that are on Facebook, they don't see that. They just expect you. Well, they're like, well, this costs this and this costs that, so that saber should only be $300. And you're like, so what am I, chopped mustard here? Uh, that's awesome, VFR pilot. And my time taken building these sabers is actually worth something, and I think I charge a fair price for my installs. And I know that Birch and a lot of the other guys that install a lot of sabers, they charge a fair price too. So just realize that you're going to have to pay a price for art, and it's expensive. And hey, thanks VFR pilot. It's a labor of love. And the bad part, at least for the next 4 or 5 months while I'm in transition, I'm getting ready to sell this house that I'm living in and buy a new house and probably get married. Who knows? Got a lot of, I probably shouldn't have said it, 'cause my girlfriend might be watching the stream. I don't want to let that go to her head. But yeah, for the next couple of months, I'm going to be a little bit busy with all that. But hopefully, once we get the new house and get settled in, then I can really get back to churning out lightsabers. Like Birch like churns out like 4 or 5 sabers a day or something. My first saber was actually a Corbant, or not a Corbant, but a Master Replicas or Hasbro Black Series Kylo Ren. And it took me a long time. Number one, it probably took me a whole day to gut it, reading all the instructions, and then ordering all the right parts and learning how to solder the LEDs and soundboard and reading the instructions on a soundboard. So I want to say that lightsaber, probably from beginning to gut it until I fired it up and it worked, was probably a week. And I used the wrong wires. It was really a mess. Years later when I took it apart and looked at it, and it's all gone from what I'd install nowadays. So yeah, that was a weird lightsaber, but it works. I mean, it still works to this day. It still works. I turn it on, it turns on, it lights up, it does what it's supposed to. Oh yeah, I know, Juan Carlos, right? But that lightsaber does what I want it to do. Still, it's an in-hilt LED, which, I don't like in-hilt LEDs, but I'm waiting on a secret saber from some guy over across the sea, and that's all we're going to say about that. Nobody, and I mean nobody, spread the word about KR's Crossguard ever. VFR pilot on that one. It depends. If you're just learning how to install a lightsaber and you want to have success right out of the box, CFX. CFX is much easier to work with. There's no programming involved per se. You can actually solder it up, wire it in, and it'll work right out of the box. With that being said, CFX does have programming. So if you want all the color changing and all that, you do have to go onto the SD card and you have to change the configuration files in the config text so you have color changing, and then how you want that color changing to work, whether it's rotating the saber, like a motorcycle grip, or if you're rotating the saber like a fan, you have to set all that up. And then if you want different blade styles and you want to be able to scroll through different blade styles, you have to set all that up on the SD card, which is easier than having to learn how to use Arduino. But with that being said, once and I always think somebody should install a simple board on your first saber. My first board I think I ever installed was a Spark 2. and second board was a Spark 2, and third board was Nano Biscotti V4. And those soundboards build a lot of confidence, because then when you pull the kill key and the saber turned on, you're like, yes, I'm doing this. I'm making it happen. Profi is a bigger mountain to climb. Profi doesn't work out of the box. Yeah, I'm getting to that one, Carlos. You have to program it really to how you're building your saber. You have to program in your blade styles, and you have to program in a lot of stuff. So there's quite a bit of code you have to learn how to write in your config files. But in the end, a Profi versus CFX, the Profi smooth swing sounds better. Let me give you for instance. And this microphone on my computer sucks. This is a Profi saber, and this is a CFX saber.
Goodness, you're not one to trifle with, are you? Hello there.
Same sound font. This is Profi.
Lovely. More smiling faces.
It's harder to get the accents to come on.
There's never time to limber up.
I like the Profi. It's close. It's close. But if you're really, 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 really anal retentive, the Profi sounds better. It's close. The Profi sounds better. I mean, I've listened to a lot of different lightsaber soundboards. Oh, no. Not on Profi, Brian. See, on Profi, when you get them, when you order these Profis, let's see, yeah, I think all I have are Teensy Sabers here lying close. So, this is a Teensy Saber V3, but when you get them, number one, you have to put all your SD contents on your SD card, and then you have to plug in your Teensy via USB, which the USB on this Teensy Saber is right there. So you plug it in, and then you program it with the config file that you made. And making your config file is probably the hardest part on Profi. You write it in like a Microsoft Word document, and then you're uploading that document onto your lightsaber with Arduino. Now, you're not programming the lightsaber per se. Frederick already did all the programming. You're just telling Frederick's program how you want it to apply itself in this particular lightsaber. In other words, you're telling it, hey, I want you to use these pads for the main blade. I want you to use these pads for my, crystal chamber accent LEDs. And I want you to, this is my first font is going to be this font, and the folder is going to be called this. And if I have a music track, it's going to be called this. And then I wanted to have this blade style on the main blade, this blade style on the crystal chamber, and this blade style on the accent LEDs. Where on CFX, you don't have to do all that. But at the same time, on CFX, you can't do all that. That's the beautiful thing about Profi, is really has unlimited possibilities on NeoPixel accent. Yeah. From that respect, Juan Carlos, when I pick up a Profi saber, it feels like the lightsaber sounded in the movies versus the CFX. I don't have a photonic NeoPixel blade. I will eventually build one. Thank you, Brad. Yeah, so if anybody doesn't know, and I'll try to link them all in this video, I've made a bunch of videos about how to create config files, and those videos started when we just had Teensy Saber. So I did making a config file for Teensy Saber, and then making an SD card for Teensy Saber, and all that really still applies to Profi, but there's some differences in the headers and the footers on your. Yeah, I'm sure Birch has made a photon blade. I haven't done one yet, but I have these videos that are on my YouTube channel, and they're pretty good guides for how to start an Arduino. The problem with my videos is that I'm a PC guy, and I know it's kind of a mixed world. It's PC versus Apple, iPhone versus Google, and I'm still on a PC, so I'm running Windows 10. So I can't help people out that are using Macs, iMacs, whatever the hell they're called. I'm not an Apple guy. I'm a PC guy. Yeah, I know. I know you're cranking them out, Jeff. I wish I could. I wish I could crank out as many as you could. Yeah, so but the thing about Profi and Arduino, and it's all intimidating, especially when you first get on it. Hell, it's intimidating just trying to get Arduino set up. So when you plug your Profi in, it recognizes your Profi. I mean, that seems to be the biggest problem everybody has, is even getting the computer to recognize their Profi that they plugged in. But once you get the computer to recognize your Profi, making these config files isn't that difficult. And to me, I actually find it easier to build a custom config file on Profi than to, hey, Dark Brooks, good to see you. Awesome. Dark Brooks is in the house, everybody. That guy is a Saber junkie. But it's easier, I think, to program the config file for a Profi than for me to make the config files on the CFX. So on CFX, it's all a matter of, it's all on the SD card. So you pull out the SD card on the CFX and you plug it into your computer and you adjust the settings. Whereas on Profi, you're adjusting the config and then uploading the config directly to your board. That's the big difference. Profi is certainly a lot more complicated. If you're buying a Saber that you want to be able to adjust, then I think probably you want to shoot for CFX if you don't feel like learning all the stuff there is to learn about Profi. And Jeff talked about that in one of his videos. Of course, we can make the Profis so that they're more user friendly. I can set them up like bank 1, bank 2, bank 3, and set up like 25 banks. So if there's a font you want to add later, you can. And with the new OS with preset save, and color changing, you can change the color of the blade to whatever color you want that font to be on, and then it'll save. And then every time you ignite the saber in that preset, it'll be that color. So, Birch and I both can set up the Profi so they're a little bit more like CFX, but you're always going to be limited in how many banks we set up. But again, I think anything beyond 12 presets gets a little bit ridiculous to cycle through anyway. I mean, heck, even the stock fonts on this. So this is just the stock fonts on CFX.
Goodness, you're not one to trifle with, are you?
So that's actually the negotiator. But let's.
Goodness, you're not one to trifle with, are you?
I always do that.
Sound bank selection.
This is
audio player.
Nightfall.
Crystal
2,
focus.
3,
Rooney.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11,
Jumbling.
This is General Kenobi.
Audio
and
player.
then 14 is a music player. And it takes me a while to cycle through them all.
Nightfall.
That's not even a smooth swing. So most of those are just like normal swing fonts. I think there's like 3 smooth swings on there, and that's stock. And that's probably the way I'll send it out. But if somebody wanted to buy a smooth swing font and put it on a CFX, it's pretty easy. You just add bank whatever on your SD card and drop your new font in there, and the Saber will play it. So from that perspective, CFX is a lot easier for the end user. But Profi is, if you take the time to learn Arduino or you're happy with the sabers as is, then Profi is king. The blade styles are infinitesimal on Profi, and they're realistic, and I love them. Hey, Kyberphonic. You just missed it. We just scrolled through your font again. Hey, Kyberphonic, we were just talking. You made a Blind Knight font. Did you make a Kanan Jarrus font? Blind Cowboy or something like that? Yes, if you did, I gotta go buy it tonight so I can put it on that saber that's going out. Sweet. I'll be going to get it put on that saber, and pretty much that'll be like one of the only fonts on that saber that's, you know, dollar money. And then I'll just make them blunt banks, and I'll put all the stock fonts on there. And if somebody wants to change it, they will. Yeah, I'll get that one. So by the way, everybody, Jesse Kirkbride's in the house. He is Kyberphonics, and if you go to Kyberphonics Sound Fonts on Facebook, Jesse Kirkbride's, God knows he's cranking out the sound fonts about 1 million miles a minute. And, you know, he's got some great sound fonts. One thing that Jesse brought in was N-Lock. Hang on a minute. I'll get this saber on one of his fonts here.
This is General Kenobi. Anything else? Luke Skywalker.
I need vengeance. The balance. The balance.
This is General Kenobi.
I've been waiting for this.
Luke Skywalker.
Young Ray.
I guess I didn't put it on here.
Vengeance. The balance.
The Cyber Project. The Cyber.
The balance.
This is General Kenobi.
I didn't put any of Jesse Kirkbride's fonts on there. I thought I put a New Hope Training on there. Crap. But Jesse Kirkbride, you know, he got the N-Lock going, which was a feature on SA2CC's on his fork of the operating system, which, oh my God, we're walking down a dangerous road there when we start talking about forks for Profi. Somebody wants me to do a video on how to install a fork. So I think that's probably going to be my next tutorial video, is how to install a fork. But I'm waiting for SA2CC to drop his latest fork of the new operating system. But when he does that, we'll oh man, Jesse, that's awesome. You didn't have to do that. I'll go buy the damn thing. I got to support you, brother. I can't take stuff for free. I got to buy it. So I'll go and buy some more fonts from you, Jesse, anyway, just to make it even. But I appreciate it. Thank you, Jesse. You're the man. Yeah, I definitely dig the Profi, but when you fine tune a CFX, it's close. It's close. If you add a purchased sound font to your config, do you delete the old config and upload the new one? So admin on, you can put a purchased sound font onto, you don't put it on your config, you put it on the SD card. The key thing is there is, for instance, let's say you have a Profi saber that's installed by somebody and it's already programmed. What you would do to put your purchased sound font on there without changing, you don't have to change the programming, but what you would need to do is select a sound font like you didn't like, you know, in this one, I mean, you heard that it scrolled to the Cyber Project.
Did you come back?
Luke Skywalker.
I need vengeance. The balance.
The Cyber Project.
So let's say I wanted to change out this font, the Cyber Project. I would locate that font on the SD card, and then I would delete all the files in that folder just on the SD card now. You would find the Cyber Project folder, and you would take that Cyber Project folder, and then you would put your new purchase font in the Cyber Project folder, and then whatever the blade style was on the Cyber Project is going to be the blade style that goes on your new font. Yeah, you could technically just replace the font into one of the existing folders and it works without needing to reprogram the lightsaber. That is correct. That's what people don't understand. So like that's what Birch and I are doing now on a lot of these Profis that we're putting out for sale. Instead of naming the font folders specific fonts, what we'll do is we'll do bank 1, bank 2, bank 3, bank 4, and especially now with the color changing blades in the new Profi OS and the config save, if you don't like one of our stock fonts that's in whatever bank, you would just change it out with whatever font you want, and then you would change the color of the blade and then close it, and it's saved, and bada bing, you've got your new font loaded in there, and it's got the color of blade that you want. And including blade styles, you can scroll through the blade styles that are on there too in the new OS, and it saves it all on your config, and it knows, hey, now we're using this blade style. So Frederick has known this is a problem all along, that programming the configs were complicated, and Frederick has taken steps as the OS has evolved to try and make his soundboards more Plector-like, more simplistic, in that once the installer programs it, then there's a way for the end user to modify it if they don't like it. And I think, that was the biggest part. We're all pushing Frederick for color changing for like the last 3 years. And Frederick's like, well, I don't understand why you guys need color changing, because he thinks, and this is no offense to Frederick, but Frederick was thinking that anybody with a Profi Saber was having the skills to modify the OS or to modify their config and just reload the config on there. And that's just not true. Probably about 10 minutes, VFR Pilot, 10 more minutes. Usually I try to keep them to an hour. It's like meetings at work, any more than an hour and it's done. But as the operating system evolves, I think it's getting closer to how CFX works. And as long as your installer, and this is why you need to use a reputable installer, as long as your installer programs your config and SD in a way that makes it more adjustable by the end user, then I think Profi is good for an end user. Someone should make a version of Profi where it was programmed that way, sell it for around $40. It could run Verso, any font. Yeah, Jeff, I did that. When Teensy Sabers were all the rage, I actually had a service where I programmed these Teensy Sabers for people, and and just sold them, and then they could wire them up. The problem with that, Jeff, is that when the end user didn't know what they were doing and they melted pads and bridge connections and hit their soldering iron on SMD components and knock them off, then they would send the board back to me saying, hey, this thing doesn't work. And then I get the board back and I'd refund them their money, and I get the board back and it looks like somebody lit it on fire. And that's why I got out of that business, Jeff. And no offense, but there's a lot of guys out there that can't solder. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about the Verso board did. I think what Cal did there was basically made a modern version of the Nano Biscotti, because did y'all know the Nano Biscotti and Prism they're gone? I mean, the CFX is it now on Plector Labs. Now I think Custom Saber Shop's still going to do that Nano Biscotti, the longboard that fits on the V6 chassis, but Nano Biscottis are gone. And I think KR realized there was a niche in the market there. People that wanted simple boards where they could learn, but it still had smooth swing and could run NeoPixels, and bam, Verso. And it is so exciting. Oh, Nano's coming. Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that. I thought Nanos were being taken out of the loop. So that's pretty good. I mean, you need an entry level board in the Saber community, and the Nano Biscotti was awesome because it had really big pads. Beginners could solder onto it without destroying stuff because you didn't have SMD components near the pads, and it would work right out of the box. And I think that's what Cal did with Verso. But Verso does NeoPixels, smooth swing, and it works right out of the box, and it's simple to solder to, really big. Frank Arcos asks, is there a manual for the Profi board somewhere? Yes, there is a manual for the Profi board, and it's up on the open source Sabers group. So if you're not on Facebook, wow, I don't even know where to tell you to get that if you're not on Facebook. But on Facebook, you need to join the open source Sabers group, and there is a Profi manual on there. Also, on my YouTube channel, there's a tutorial section, Profi Teensy Saber tutorial section, and I've got a lot of videos on how to installed profies and the software needed to mess around with them and all that. But yeah, at any rate, you know, if Plector Labs is coming out with Nano V5, that's going to be awesome. Because I always thought the Nano Biscotti was a great board for beginners. And, you know, I talked about this before, you know, and we talked about it at the beginning where, you know, you're going to pay a price. Some of these things are really expensive. And everybody's like, man, those are so expensive. Well, that's what I felt, you know, when I first got into this. I'm like, man, I can't afford for somebody to convert my Kylo Ren saber because it was going to be like $450. And I was like, I'll just figure it out myself. And I did, and it wasn't easy. But to me, the Spark boards and the Nano Biscotti boards really made all that simple. But now everybody wants smooth swing, and you know, the Verso really stepped in there and I think created an entry level board with smooth swing. And then there's another one that's coming out too, Birch, isn't there? I can't remember the guy's from France, and his name's Frederick too. And he makes a soundboard, and they were really cool. And I can't remember the name of that one right now, but it's Golden Harvest. There you go. Thank you, Jeff. You drive me crazy. I was having an Alzheimer's moment there at the end of the day. Hey, Jeff, the video you made in Mississippi, who are you with again? Because my brain's slipping because I'm old and I have Alzheimer's. I'm like losing it. I can't remember names right now. Guy that does really good weathering down there in Mississippi, Alabama, on the coast. Benji Graham. Yeah, good Lord. Mobile, Alabama. Lord, I couldn't remember Benji's name. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, I watch his videos like every freaking day. But yeah, you know, I was thinking about him earlier in the video before you got here, Jeff. 5 pages of notes I've been keeping on things that I struggle with, somewhat tech inclined, that I'm going to be using to update some of the more basic documentation for Profi. Yeah, I mean, it's good to take notes for yourself. You know, look, the funny thing is if you go on my YouTube channel, there are videos where you see me failing at Teensy Saber when I was first trying to figure all this out. You know, the first time I put the boards together, I got the blue smoke, and that wasn't good. And the second time I put them together backwards, and then trying to take them apart, I destroyed another one. And so the first 2 Teensy Sabers I bought were utter failures on my part. I was having problems understanding everything Frederick was saying about, you know, putting the sandwich boards together, and you know, my vision's not that great, so I was even having problems with his manual. But oh, freaked out my dog. But the Risky, it's okay. That was me, buddy. Risk. It was me. Come here. Come here. It was me. Oh man, he's freaking out. He lost his mind. Risk. Sorry about that. Hey, it's okay. It's okay. Come here. It's okay. Risky. It's okay. There's nobody out there. He's a good guard dog. He's trying to kill whoever's at the door. It was me knocking on wood. But at any rate, what I was gonna say is it's even on my my YouTube channel, and it was like the first time I ever built a NeoPixel blade, and I got it running on Igniter, and then I showed my burn up Teensy Saber board. So you know, it's an uphill battle. You know, and now with the Profi, since we don't have to put boards together like we did, you know, on the Teensy Sabers, and that's one of my Teensy Saber beef. There's nothing wrong with this board either. This board still works. But yeah, you know, everybody struggles when they learn. And I butchered 2 Teensy Saber V3s in the process, and then I was leaving out the jumper wire. I didn't catch that in his wiring diagrams, and when I finally figured it out and I got Teensy Saber working, then it was like boom, this light bulb switched on. I understood config files, I understood the SD cards, and I understood you know, open source, and I was like, bam, you know, it's on. And then Profi came out shortly thereafter, and I was all over Profi, and it was awesome. Which side up on the Profi? That's, you know, that's always the debate. Hang on a second. Let's get one. So the cool part is these are like the last 3 Profis I have left from the original run. These are B1 Profis from the original run from Frederick. And the question always comes up is, do I solder it USB up or do I solder it SD card up? So on the Profi, the SD card receiver is on the underside, and then the USB port's on the top side, but also on the top side you have the boot and reset buttons, which sometimes you need to get to. So typically I solder them with the micro USB port up. There's another reason that I do it with the micro USB port up, is so that, you know, nowadays you can actually program the Profi, so you can program the SD card through the USB port. So even if you can't get to the SD card, you can still program the SD card through the USB port. Yeah, Profi 1.5s, you probably need a kill key or a kill switch. Although Frederick has made great progress on the 1.5 and 2.2 standby time. Yeah, on V2.2 Profis, now 1.5 standby isn't as good. It's about a month. But on V2.2, I've got a V2.2 that was my beta test saber, my DV6, and it has a kill switch on it and a recharge port, but I've never touched them. And I never turned that saber off. And right now, if I went and picked it up, I guarantee it would light up. Probably. I haven't touched this saber in a month and a half. Here's going to be a test of 2.2. So yeah, I haven't touched this saber in a month and a half.
3.77 volts.
So it's a 3.77 volts. Haven't touched this thing in a month and a half. And it does have a recharge port in it. Ugh. There's the recharge port. And it also has a kill switch, but I always leave them on. So yeah, the standby time on the 2.2 is really nice. I don't think you necessarily have to have a kill switch or a recharge port on the 2.2s. This was my 2.2 beta saber, this DV6. This was my beta test of the 2.2 back before they went into production with KR sabers. So yeah, the 2.2s have crazy standby time, and that's on the old OS. That's on 2.6 or 1.26 color change, which was a really old version of the operating system. So the new operating system, I need to upgrade that saber. I need to reprogram it. I've been afraid to go to the new operating system, but I know I need to because they've already done so much work in it. I need to go ahead and take a week and just reprogram all my sabers with the new operating system, with new config files, with the new color changing blade styles. I just need to get over it. But we'll see. But right now, that saber's awesome as it is, so I'm leaving it. So yeah, end result max is, it depends, 2.2 or 1.5. If you've got a 1.5, I would probably put a kill switch on it. If you've got a 2.2, you don't need a kill switch. The cool part was on the DV6 is it has both, Juan. So on the DV6, it's got a recharge port which you can put a kill key in, but it's also got this kill switch here, so you could use either. And they're internal, they're not external, and it's easy to get to. The DV6, I know, I love this DV6, man. That's like one of my favorite Corband tilts. And I'm kind of concerned because Corband is currently redesigning the DV6, and I'm like, oh my god, don't mess with the DV6. The only improvement they could make is maybe threading in all these things, all these little buttons that go in there instead of having to glue them in. If he would thread those in, that would be nicer. But as far as design changes on this, I really wouldn't change a whole lot. I know he's going to make the rear end longer on these, which I'm okay with that because you can do cooler, longer chassis in them. But as far as the DV6 from Corbant, this version, I love it. That's an awesome saber. I really hope he doesn't change it. And that is my Profi 2.2 beta saber. So I did beta testing for Frederick on that, and then I didn't test data 3. Neither did Frederick, neither did any of the other beta testers. And then we found a defect in data 3 after all the beta testing was done. And then Frederick had to go do fixes on that in the programming in the operating system. But Wow, man, we've been over an hour. We've been going an hour and 4 minutes. So that's probably about time to call in the dogs and be on the fire, right, Risky? Come here and say goodbye to everybody. Come here. Come here. Come here and say goodbye to everybody. Come on up here. Come here. Come here, buddy. Come here. Come here, Risk. Come here. Come here, boy. Come here and say goodbye to everybody. Come here. Come on. Come here. His legs hurt, so come on. Come on up. Come on. There we go. There's my sidekick. So Risky says goodbye to everybody. We'll see you, Max. Got to go back to work, Max. It's daytime down under. On a mission to get Yarrow Tapple Saber replicas. Can't wait for the Corvette patch store to be back in stock. Yeah, I'm looking forward to see what they do with the V2 of the DV6. Pretty excited about that. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by. Keep an eye out on my channel. We'll get these lightsabers hopefully done. Hey, thanks, VFR Pilot. Hope this helps you guys. I hope it's been enlightening for everyone. You know, the more we talk about this stuff, the easier it gets for you guys, the better it is for me. And like I said, there's a bunch of guys installing these things, but there's not enough. I mean, there's so much demand for it. Have a great night, Jesse. Thank you for the font again. We'll get that installed on that saber. You'll see it on the video, and then I'll buy some more fonts for you to make up for that. But good to see everybody. Thanks for stopping by. For those of you new to the stream, we do these. I try to do them every Monday. Next Monday might be tough because my kid's moving into a new house. I might have to help them, so it might be later. And yeah, I know Risky says good night to you guys too. And as always, if you like my videos, you know, give them a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment on these things after they're published. You know, I try to keep up with all my YouTube comments and answer questions. I'll try to put links we talked about in the video once it posts. And thank you, everybody, for stopping by, and may the force be with you, or the dark side, as it were. See you, Birchie. We'll see you guys later.